little out of tune. Anyone out there? We got anybody yet? A little late. One viewer. All right, we can do better than that. Oops, wait. What the heck? How do I go back to where I was? That's weird. Show preview. Oh, it wouldn't be that one. Oh, it is that one. Oh, funny. All right. What's going on? There you are. Dan, what's going on? Little out of tune. Let me tune this up. Let's see. Pretty much in tune. What's going on, Bob? We're going to talk some more about modes since I'm on the subject. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about harmonizing the modes, which really, in a lot of ways, is kind of like doing the relative scales, where you just here's the 1 chord, here's the 2 chord, here's the 3 chord, here's the 4 chord, here's the 5 chord, here's the 6 chord, here's the 7 chord, here's the 1 chord, and then D Dorian, this is the 1 chord, this is the 2 chord. All you do is you move the number over 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, whatever. I lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So it's kind of not really a thing you really teach or talk about in that regard. When you do start to get into harmonization, and we'll talk about we've talked about this before, but when you do, it's usually when you've altered the scale in some way. We've done something weird to it, so it's not one of the 7 modes. The classic example is when we do like a harmonic minor. So if we take the A minor and make it a harmonic minor, now you've got something. Now you've got something that's going to create some interesting harmonies that wouldn't naturally exist. That wouldn't be just a copycat and copy and paste of another relative scale. So we're going to maybe talk about that. We may actually go into the harmonic minor thing. But all right, so let's see. Anything going on? Anybody watch the Super Bowl? I'm like, well, just that game just saved me a lot of time this year. I know I'm not going to have to watch football for the next few years until Mahomes retires, because it's a dynasty. If they win 3 in a row, it's like, yeah, what's to stop them from winning 10 in a row until Mahomes retires? It's like Brady when Brady was playing. It was like, if the Patriots got to the Super Bowl, all America did was root against them. They didn't care. They didn't care if it was their arch enemy playing the Patriots. They rooted against them, and that's the Chiefs are the most hated team in America. It's not even a close second. It's because they're just winning, and that people hate that. They want their team to get a chance. I don't have a team, so used to have a team, but I don't care anymore. And then that halftime. So, anybody have a favorite commercial? Um, I I don't. I'm not sure why Justin. I mean, I know he was in. I know he was in Vegas, but only because people were telling me he was in Vegas. Last I saw, because I follow him on Instagram, I follow him on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter. But last time I saw, that was crazy too, because I got like the night that Justin Bieber followed me on Twitter. Um, he followed a bunch of people, but he followed me last. So like I was sitting on his follow list, and he didn't follow anybody for a few weeks after me. So like I'm on the top of his follow list if it's sequential, when it's set sequential. And I got like 2,500 followers or something overnight, and all these like girls are like going, all these teenage girls are asking, "Who are you?" Sending me these messages. "Who are you? Why is Justin following you?" It's like, took me back to junior high. It's like with all the girls when when I was in junior high, they're all like, "Who do you think you are?" So that's Martian Murray. Yeah, I mean, I kind of followed a little bit. I don't know. I mean, if Andy Reid retires, I don't think he will. He looked pretty healthy. There were rumors that he might retire, and there were rumors that Belichick would take his place, but I don't think Mahomes wants to be coached by Belichick. I mean, maybe he does. Um, oh, you went to a local guitar jam. How was that, Sadie? Was it fun? I mean, if it's a lot of really good players, yeah, that would be kind of a drag. It's probably you want to find one that's kind of in your range. I don't know how they would designate that. In tennis, they have rankings that I don't know what my ranking is. Probably 1.5, not even a 1.5. A half? Do they have a half? Um, Golf, you have a handicap. They probably need to kind of create some kind of system like that for handicapping guitar players, so that you don't kind of get in over your head, and also you don't drag other people down. It's like I've said in the past. It's very important for you to learn how to play the blues, the 12-bar blues, and to keep it 12 bars. Most people, what they do, like beginners, what they do when they're playing 12-bar blues, they think when they go back to the one chord at the end, that's the beginning again. And so they end up making it a 10-bar blues, and that's not right. And it throws everybody off. And when you're not playing something the expected way, and we've talked about this, and you can go back and watch those videos on the blues, there's pretty much an expected way to play the blues. Like in G, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. And there's your top right there. So that was 12 bars fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your tempo. That's, a basic way to play the blues. There's other ways to play the blues. But ultimately, they should all kind of land on the 4 chord at a certain spot, land on the 5 chord at a certain spot, go back to the 1 chord at a certain spot, so that everybody knows it's like a common language. Everybody knows it all over the world, and if you play that, then somebody can jam along with you. But if you're off, then they're going to be like, you went there? Oh, okay, we're there already? And so I feel like that's one of those things where you could probably, just play it 100 times, try to play 10 times in a row without messing up. Maybe a jam track. Do I have blues jam tracks that you can jam with? I mean, if I do, I should know this, right? If I do, I would just play rhythm with it. Blues jam. I mean, there's a million. Oh, yeah, here I got some blues. See, blues. For the live stream lesson. Look at that. Is that G? Oh, it says G blues. Okay, so I did several different ones. I did a simple 12-bar blues in G, a not so simple 12-bar blues in G, and a more complex blues in G. So you could practice each of those, and you could use open chords. I would use seventh chords just to give it that bluesy sound. But there are like country songs, there are jazz songs that use the blues. So it's not necessarily a progression that's consistent to the blues, but that's a good thing to learn just to even start jamming. So let me grab this. Let's see, copy link. Okay, so here's a link for the G blues at 80.5 BPM. I don't know why 80.5 BPM, but that's what it is. And you can kind of see from that from the JPEG there what the blues is. But basically, I got a spot. I can do something here. Hold on. It's going to be 1 4 1 1 4 4 1 1 5 4 1 5. That's basically kind of the basic format, and each one of those would be a measure long. Okay, so the 1 chord, then the 4 chord, then the 1 chord for 2 bars, the 4 chord for 2 bars, and the 1 chord for 2 bars, then the 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord. So and the bottom 4 numbers is what's called the turnaround. Sometimes you call the turnaround, it could be the last 2 bars, because you could do something. And all I did was go up G to B flat to A flat, and there's that back at the top. And that's kind of like a that would be like a circle of fifths turnaround. There's like I said, there you can do a simple one, a medium one, and a complex one, and there's multiple variations on the blues, almost infinite number of variations on the blues that you can do. But if you just play the basic blues, basic simple blues, then people can jam over that. It's pretty easy. And you could do a different turnaround every time or whatever. I could do a video on, we could do a live stream of, or I could do a video of blues turnarounds. But I'll explain what I just did, and I'm off point here. I'm not talking about whatchamacallit, modes right now. But why did that work? So let me play blues real quick. I'll slow down when I get to the turnaround. 4 4 1 1 5 4. Why does that work? I mean, it's weird, right? It's weird, but it kind of works. Well, why does it kind of work? Well, because one turnaround you could do is what's called a circle of fifths turnaround. And what I did there was I went, basically you've got a 5 1, but the 5 has a 5, and that 5 has a 5. So I just go 2 beats of G, and then I go to the 5 of the A7 chord, the 5 of the 2. So I'm going I'm going to the 5 of the 2 chord. I'm going to the 5 of the 5 chord. I'm going to the 5 chord, and then to 1. Don't be confused by this. Basically, all I'm playing is E7, A7, D. So I'm going G7, E7, A7, D7. And that circle of fifths kind of turnaround was very, very common in country music. Oftentimes, it's a B section of a lot of jazz tracks. I think of what's called rhythm changes from I Got Rhythm. The B section is a circle of fifths. Very, very common. Normally, you would end the circle of fifths on the 5 chord. So you would actually start on the 5 of the 5 of the 5 of the 5, and then go to the 5 of the 5, and then you go to the 5 of the 5. You start on the 5 of the 5 of the 5 of the 5, then you go to the 5 of the 5 of the 5, and then you go to the 5 of the 5, and then you go to the 5, and then that brings you back to the top of the song, or the A section. And so that's kind of, but we're not doing that. We're actually starting on the 1 chord and then going, okay. So what's that got to do with the chromatic thing? Well, there's something called tritone substitution. So anytime you play a dominant 7th chord, you can always, particularly when it's the 5 chord, you can substitute a tritone away. All right. Now on the guitar, you can find a tritone very easily on the bottom 4 strings. It's just 1 fret and 1 string. So that's a tritone right there. So a power chord would be that. Yep. A tritone is the 2nd chord in Batman. When I did the laugh track chord, it was just a tritone, a falling tritone going down chromatically. Okay, so so if I go G7 to E7, instead of E7, I could do a tritone substitution, which would be a B flat. So this implies the E7. Okay, so why is that? Well, remember we talked about something called guide tones, G-U-I-D-E, guide, okay? Like an Indian guide, guide tones. So, the guide tones of a 7th chord are the 3rd and the 7th. Those are the 2 most important chords, notes in the chord. You can play I can imply, this just by going. I'm only playing 2 notes, but the bass players, oops. You got a bass player, you can just, it's kind of the Freddie Green method of playing guitar. So, so with the tritone thing, if we look at the E7 chord, okay, so if I just make this a C7 chord, if we move that up here, the guide tones in the E7 chord are a G sharp and a D. That's the 3rd and that's the 7th. Well, if I look at the guide tones of a B flat 7 chord, it's a A flat and a D. Same exact 2 notes. So when I play this chord, E7, and when I play this chord, B flat 7, they actually have 2 notes in common of the 4. There's 4 notes in an E7 chord, and there's 4 notes in a B7 chord. And seriously, do not worry. There will not be a quiz on this. But if you happen to understand it, or starting to pick it up, because I've talked about this before, the devil's interval, exactly, Mamba. And it was actually not allowed to be written into music, especially sacred music, for a period of time during the Renaissance. Not Renaissance, it would have been more medieval. And so if those are the 2 most important notes, then if they're the same between those 2 chords, if the 2 most important notes are the same in E7 and the 2 most important notes in B flat 7, then there's no reason you can't just substitute the B flat 7 for the E7. Okay, so that explains that, right? So the circle of fifths turnaround was G7 to E7 to A7 to D7. Okay, but what I did was, okay, so the G7, we went to the B flat, which was a tritone sub for the E7, okay? And then we went to A7 in both scenarios. So nothing changes there. And then the next one was the D7, and the tritone sub for that would be A flat 7. Okay, and that's why that works. Now the question is, you could probably like even imply that, like if you wanted to, whatever, you go. Right? So I'm just basically outlining those three arpeggios. I'm just outlining those. Could I do those same arpeggios even if it went to the, yeah, because you'd be creating this kind of cool thing. Very, very jazzy sounding. But what I'm doing there is the chord progression is going G to E to A to D, the circle of fifths. But I'm using the tritone substitution, the chromatic thing, to create a run. Again, all I'm doing is I'm like finding a little, play that with me. Okay, so this is the 6th fret on the 4th string. About the easiest snippet I can find for a dominant 7th chord. Arpeggio, okay. It just means we're playing the notes in order. We're starting on the 7th, and we go here, 6th fret, but this is the 7th of the chord. 6th fret, 8th fret, then the next string we're going to the 7th fret, and then we're going to the 6th fret. Do that, and that's basically a B flat 7 chord. And then just slide it down and do the same thing backwards. And then go down and do this, go back up. Now, really the progression, the turnaround starts on the 1 chord, the G chord. Like that. So you might have. But it's a great, but like I said, that would still probably work. It would be very jazzy. Okay, now let me dive deep here, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm trying to hold a D note, because remember, and here's the other thing, I could play an E7 arpeggio to an A7 arpeggio to a D7 arpeggio to the G7 arpeggio over the chromatic thing. They're interchangeable. I could do something like, over this, over the chromatic one, but that I was actually playing an E7 arpeggio and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm going too deep into the weeds here, I'm afraid. I'm gonna lose a lot of you, but I'm trying to make it kind of fun because I want to give you something you can actually take away from it. It just sounds fun, and you could do that with any 7th arpeggio. You could do what's another 7th. So that's kind of aside from what we're talking about, but so you like weeds? You mean you like singular? You like weed? I don't know. The time prophet's in the house. Sorry, I haven't had a chance. Hail, Tom Strahle. All hail. Hey, Jeff, what's going on? Yeah, well, Jeff, it's funny because so often, like, this is a journey. It's a journey for me, too. I mean, sometimes I feel like a total caveman guitar player because I started branching out pretty early in my study of the guitar. So I kind of never really dug deep into jazz or too deep into classical or even into rock and metal and rock, funk and soul and all that stuff. It's like, I guess maybe because I'm probably ADHD, I got, I would get bored, but it wasn't really that. It was that I was trying to, there's a place you want to get where you can basically fool 99% of the population for studio work, and particularly for movies and TVs and games and things like that, where what you're playing musically is behind stuff. If it's a record, like I said, if I said this in the past, if somebody calls me to play mandolin on a bluegrass record, I'm going to say, yeah, call someone else, because I mean, I would love to, but you know, I'll probably end up doing the same 7 licks on every song, and you're going to go, "Does this guy actually play bluegrass mandolin?" And the answer would be no, but I can play it good enough to do it. Write a little song for a TV show or something, but you know, I can work things up. If you write it out every note, maybe I could do it. But even then, at the speed you'd probably want me to be playing it, it probably wouldn't be something that my fingers would really be natural at. So I've got kind of these. So Jeff, what I'm saying here is a lot of times I discover things. And I'm like, wait, that's all he did. Like I talked about Pat Metheny and his. When I finally saw him live, and I'm not saying Pat Metheny's not a freaking insane guitar player. He's one of the best guitar players in the history of the planet. And I literally saw him play probably 8 billion notes and not hit a bad note in his show. But I realized, watching him, how often he used pentatonic scales and used them in odd ways over chords. Like you can take an A7 chord and you go, oh sure, I'll do. Okay, that's great. That works. You know, A minor pentatonic over A7. I had a little blues note in there, but basically that sounds like the blues. All right, even without the blues note. Well, you can also take that same stupid scale and go up a fret. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. Now, the only note that's kind of weird there is the G sharp. So you could feasibly play B.B. King's Happy Pentatonic, which is kind of a minor 6 pentatonic, up a half step, and that would totally create this A7 sharp 5 flat sharp 9 and a flat 9. It would have, well, and it sounds really outside. But then if the next chord is like that, then you just go, you take that same scale and go up a fret, and now you're in B minor or D major pentatonic, and it's like, wait, what? I went, you know. I'm not saying that's what Metheny did like ad nauseum, but I noticed him doing that on particularly some of the more complex phrases or whatever. You can navigate through some really complex changes just by moving pentatonics around. It was, and this was like 5 or 6 years ago that I went to see his show, and I'd been playing jazz for, you know, since I was 13 years old. And it was like, oh man, I wish I'd known that when I was 13. But yeah, so it's kind of like that. It's like just constantly discovering things. And this is, you know, that chromatic, you know, chord progression that's really, what is that? What does that work? Is, you know, the tritone sub thing, you know, those are things that you just little things you can learn that can really open up a lot of your playing. There's a trick. Here's another trick. Like for example, E7 chord, G7 chord. You play a G7 arpeggio and you play a D flat 7 arpeggio. And both of those work. The G7 is the 1, the 3, the 5, and the dominant 7th. Very, very inside. If I go to the tritone sub and play the same arpeggio, I'm playing the flat 5, the 7th, which is in the chord, the flat 9, and the 3rd. So I still have, in that arpeggio, I still have the guide tones, because remember the guide tones are in both of the guide tones are the same. They're just reversed in name. The 7th becomes the 3rd, and the 3rd becomes the 7th when you do the substitution. But essentially, you could create little exercises where you play A7 or G7 arpeggio. Just thinking on the fly. But basically all I did there was I played a G7 arpeggio, G, B, D, F, and then I played a D flat 7 arpeggio, which was D flat, F, A flat, B, but really C flat, what I would call that in a D flat arpeggio. So, okay. Anyway, I'm losing you. I hope you're not Glad Tom doesn't do PTSD. No, just no ADHD. Oh, you're talking about Pacific Daily Standard Time or Daylight Savings Time. I don't know what PDST stands for. Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that, Bruce. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Sadie, did you say how it went? Are you still there, Sadie? I can't see who's online unless you're like currently chatting. Where was Sadie's comment? No, I saw your comment. I commented on it. Oh, oh, you will be going again. Okay, that's great. So awesome. Oh, you got rained on cycling home. Oh no. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, but awesome though. Maybe it won't. Maybe the rain is done. Well, we're supposed to get more rain next week. I don't know if that's still on the. Is it still on the thing? Let's see. I've got to. Oh, I've got a session I've got to do too, so I'm not going to be able to go too long today. Yeah, now it's just saying Monday, Tuesday. It was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or something. They keep moving it, but I'll keep my sprinklers off. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Yeah, thank you. That is my coffee. I appreciate that 100%, man. Yeah, it's crazy though that how you can just like superimpose scales weird, you know. You can, Jeff, if you wanted to, you could sit down and try to come up with like a grid. I don't know if we could do this. We can do this, but where you play all the minor pentatonics over an A7 chord, for example, and talk about how far out each one is. Like this one's pretty out, but you got the flat 5, you got the 6, you got the 3rd, and the flat 9. But you made yourself, well, that's kind of this. You know. But that's the other thing. You can just, here's another trick, Jeff, that I noticed players doing, and I'm like, wait, what? That's all they did? It's like, oh, okay. So you're playing an A minor pentatonic. You just go down a half step and start playing the pentatonic and then slide up. You can do the same thing with it just sounds like you're going, like doing some jazzy thing, but all you're doing is you're moving the. And then you might find that ones play in moments where it sounds cooler to go up, like. And it just sounds like you're doing something crazy when it's all you're doing. You can even just do 2 notes. And then you can start to create little hybrid scales that kind of the notes that work. Like for example, over this, the reason that kind of worked is because when you're playing that C note over the A7, you're actually you're not playing the right note over the chord. The right note would be C sharp. So you go up to that C sharp, and then you go down to the B flat, which is kind of the flat 9. So do this with me. So I'm just playing the top 4 notes of the pentatonic scale, the basic rock and roll. Okay, so I'm at the 5th fret, 2nd string, then 7th fret, 5th fret, 7th, I'm sorry, what did I say 7th fret, sorry. 5th fret, 8th fret, 5th fret, 8th fret, and then slide up to the 9th fret, maybe go down to the 6th fret, and then slide back down to the 5th fret. So you're really only going to that neighboring pentatonic for 2 notes. You could do 4 notes. The only one is, that one's a little weird, but you could actually do that. You could go. That's kind of cool because then you're surrounding the root note and getting to it. You're doing like that's kind of a Django trick. all I did there was I surrounded every note of the A triad, but below a half step, I mean above a half step, below a half step, and then with. But if you do that, like something like that obvious, people are gonna be like, oh, you should. But if you just do it a little bit, if you like. You just kind of sneak it in there. Do it a little bit, and you don't have to start at the higher one, go to the lower one. You can do the other way around. Or you can go. Those are all like little fun little tricks. So, I guess the video I titled. So what is it? Are you tired of talking about modes yet? So that's where I'm at. We got 33 though. Why is it showing for like? This is weird. The map on this is like really odd. Current viewers, yeah. All right. I don't want to do anything. Shopping. What's shopping? Nah. Tag products. Oh, interesting. Build excitement by releasing products in your stream. Yeah, no, it's all right. Okay, back to analytics. I don't know why it's showing from yesterday noon. Weird. Okay. Hey, Alina, what's going on? Never enough modes. Okay, so when we did this before, where we talked, I had you create all of the chords in the key of C, the triads. We started with triads. So if you look at the very, very top here, over here, not the Ionian scale, I can move this, but actually we're going to be referencing this, but I'll move it for now. This thing here, boom, this thing. Okay, if you look at the very top of that, it says relative scales. You see the C scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Well, if you want, and I can even do this, I don't need this anymore. So I'm actually gonna edit this. Okay, change it to C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay. Now, the reason I wrote 2 octaves out is just to make it easier on you to see all of the triads, all right? And triads are created by using every other letter in the musical scale or alphabet or whatever you want to say. So, and triads are 3 notes, triad. That's why the prefix tri is in there. If you studied your Latin, you would know this. How many of you had Latin in high school? My high school offered it, but I didn't take it. It used to be mandatory. Like, I think if you were probably born in the 40s or 50s, you probably would have had to take Latin, which is actually phenomenally huge. I think it still should be a requirement. Happy Chinese New Year. That's right. It was Saturday, wasn't it? Year of the Dragon. So, Captain and Tennille, we should just learn nothing but Tony Tennille and Daryl Dragon songs. Is that what you're saying? I was trying to come up. I think probably the worst pop song in history is Muskrat Love. I challenge you to come up with a worse. Let me write that down. Let's see. Where? Oh wait, no, that doesn't work. Wait, can I do that? Anyway, is there? Oh, I'm still in caps lock. Is there a worse pop song than Muskrat Love? That's our question here for the day. Now I got to figure out how to make this smaller. Boop. Get small. Steve Martin, remember Steve Martin, Get Small? Wow. It is really, I mean, there's a better way to do this, I know, but I'm just going to drag it until it's small enough to drag down here. Oh, wow. It has to be pretty small. Okay, so let me do this. Boom. All right, I got to click there. Return. All right. So if anybody can think of one that's worse, go for it. Welsh. Oh, that's cool. Time prophet. Because kind of like Latin, Welsh is, you don't want that language to die, right? Was it an attempt to keep it alive? I'm assuming you went to school in Wales. Or was that something they taught in England proper? Any song by Kylie Minogue is much worse than any song in history. Kylie Minogue, yeah, maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Muskrat Love has so many things going for it. Cheesy harmony, awful lyrics, kind of a cheesy melody, and then probably one of the worst. No, not probably. Probably the worst solo in any song in history. It was Daryl playing with his mini moog and like, listen to this sound. It sounds like a. I'll make a sound that sounds like a rat. You know, it's like, ugh. Yeah, yeah. It's a very low bar. You know, and I kind of liked Love Will Keep Us Together. Now, that's actually a Neil Sedaka song, which if you listen to the backgrounds in the end of the song, they say, right? They're doing nanas, I think. And then at one point, if you listen to the very end, they say, Sedaka is back. He had a hit with Calendar Girl. And then it was like, he probably had a couple other hits besides that, but man, he had a hard time garnering those hits, and so it was like, 15 years later, and he's like, I'm back. A rap pedal. Oh, hey, Goldmine, what's going on? Good to see you. You took 4 years of French. I took a year of Spanish or 2 years of Spanish. Did horrible at it. I don't know. Oh, you did it too. So, Kathy, you did a jam too? I hope you had a fun. Oh, you guys were together. I thought I'd be able to play 2 or 3 of the songs, but ended up playing along to most. That's awesome. Yeah, and if they're cool, they've got like handouts or a book that you can borrow and stuff. I mean, for the time. Was I? Yeah, I was in a band, but nobody famous. I had a band. I mean, bands in high school, bands. I was in a kind of a top 40 funk disco band in Indiana before I moved to California, called Malachi, but it was all just covers. And then when I came to LA, I decided not to be in a cover band because I could do that anywhere. And I felt like if you're going to do anything with a band, you should do original music just in case you get discovered. So I had an original band for a while and didn't really do anything, never recorded, never got signed. I mean, we recorded some stuff, but never got signed. And the recordings aren't very good. I found them recently, and I was like listening to them. Actually, bounced them, imported them into Logic so that I could send them to my buddies that were in the band, just for giggles. But yeah, no famous bands or anything like that. Now never. Yeah, would have been fun, but Disco Duck. Rick Dees. Yeah, Disco Duck. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The Convoy is pretty bad. There's the Streak. There was right in that was those are all in the same like era. Like that's mid '70s. Like for some reason there was, and then super songs like Popcorn was a hit and Nadia's Theme. I mean, really? Nadia's Theme. What's not? Isn't Nadia's Theme like? Let me get the piano up here. Was it? It was a. is it? I don't remember. I never learned it. I'm just like riffing off the top of my head. I know it was like 6. It's like that's what it is. Seconds. That second that was so prevalent in the 80s. So, all right, let's see. Yeah. Exactly, Sam. I have no idea. The synthesizer solo is. I just recently watched a live performance of it, and they kind of were even embarrassed by it. And he's clearly, Daryl's kind of a nerdy guy, and he's got this synth sound up that you can see his fingers moving across the fingerboard, but it's really not making any kind of pitch. It's like this, you know. And I'm like, it almost sounds demonic. Like it's supposed to be a sweet, innocent little song, and it's got this horrible, like, what the heck is that sound? It's awful. I can't think of a song with a worse, like, solo break. Ooh, what did Goldmine say? Oh yeah, duh, I forgot about that, Sadie. Of course, people bring tablets. Yeah, I mean, you know, when Brad, I don't know, Brad, are you here? Are you lurking right now? When I go to Brad's house, you know, often we'll be pulling up iPads. I'm awful with that kind of stuff. In fact, Brad will say, "Hey, Tom, you do a song." I'm like, I don't know any songs. My whole life has been like, you know, do a session, you know, play a track like this, you know, and then go to the next thing. So this is not a song you would play for in a group setting for everybody to sing along with. It's some game thing, I think. This was for games, and you just move on. So I don't know. You know, that's my life. I get to play guitar all day, but I'm not like learning a bunch of songs and stuff like that, which is fun. And when we jam, I like, you know, when I got the chords in front of me, it's fun, and my wife really likes it too because she loves singing and stuff. So, the outro scat of "Share the Love," "Share the Land." Oh, I'll have to check that out. Okay, Sam, that's got to be pretty bad. Billy, Don't Be a Hero. Yeah, there's a lot of bad songs. Don't get me wrong. I'm just asking, is there a worse pop song than Muskrat Love? You know, and it has to be one that was like a hit. You know, there's a lot of horrible songs, and they didn't even come close to charting because they're incredibly horrible. But you said it got to number 5 on the charts? That's just astonishing. And I think it was their last hit. No, it wasn't. No, they had a ballad that was a hit after that. Okay, so if you look at that C scale I have right here, what am I doing? Right here, sorry, I can't point. All right, right here. I wrote 2 octaves of a C scale. So we can go, so you can easily see the triad. So look at C, skip D, you got E, skip F, and G. C, E, G. That's the first triad, and that is this. Or this. Major. You should be smiling when you put a stupid smile on your face when you play C chord. Okay? Now, if you go to the next note in the scale, D, and skip every other note, you get DFA. Okay? And that's a minor. What's that? According to Nigel Tufnell of Spinal Tap, that's the saddest of all keys. What? Does he go to G major? No, he goes... What's he going? Yeah, that's what he does. It's the one of the most inside jokes, and my friend CJ is their Spinal Tap's music director, and they are, if you're a fan of Spinal Tap, they're filming a sequel. They're in New Orleans right now with production meetings, so I'm going to try to get in it. I would love to be in it. Alex, my son, would love to be in it. I mean, I would love to just be in the crowd or something. I don't need a role. I don't need to play guitar in it. I don't need to have a line. I just would love to be in the background somewhere. Um, how do I remember all of this? I don't know. I just do. I've never drank. I've had very little alcohol in my life, and I've never done drugs, and maybe that helps. And a lot of experience. That's probably true, Dennis. The main thing is just using it all the time. Okay, so we did the DFA, okay, and then if we go to the next note in the scale, the third note in the scale, which is called, the third degree of the scale, that would be E, and if you go skip every other letter, you get E, G, B. So now we have a little harmonized. So far we got C scale harmonized. Okay, we go to the next chord, we go F, A, C, all right? And that's a major triad. So we have a major triad, two minors, major, and if we continue, go G, B, D, it's another major triad, okay? And now you can see why I had you write down 2 octaves of a C scale, because now otherwise you'd be trying to calculate in your brain, okay, if I go G, B, oh shoot, how do I go, what's after C? Oh, D, okay. This way you don't have to go backwards. You can just keep going forwards in the scale. You can keep going this way. Boop, 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 boop. But this is the hardest thing. I always say this, I could never be a weatherman or a weather babe. It could definitely never be a weather babe. Okay, so, all right. Okay, then if we go to the next note in the scale, A, and we go A, C, E, now we have another minor triad. So if we had a melody that was kind of like holy, 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 it would sound like this if you harmonized it, double harmonized with 2/3 on top. Yeah. You could just take the second string and the third string, and it would sound like this. If you're looking for a harmony to sing, so you're singing, then the other person could sing, like that. So, okay, now if we go to the last note in the scale, the B note, then you go up to D and you go to F. Well, that's actually that's a B diminished triad. So we had 3 major triads, 3 minor triads, and 1 diminished triad. And that does create some tension, as diminished triads should. That really does want to resolve to C, because it has a tritone in it. We have a B and an F in it, right? We have a B, D, F, but if I just take the B and F, play that here, I'm way up here at the, I can do it down here at the 4th fret, and then the 6th fret of the 2nd string, okay? And that B wants to go up to C, and that F wants to go down to E, and that's tension, resolve, or release. Tension, release. 5, 1, 5, 1. Because that tritone kind of implies the 5. Yeah, so time prophet, hopefully this is, I'm simplifying it. One of the things that I try to do, time, is that I'll explain things from several different directions. And you know, because we all learn differently. Like, there's, 5 different ways of learning. We homeschooled. And all 3 of our kids were very different learners. And our daughter could just read books and books and books and books. She just loved to read. So did Jack. Alex really had to get kind of hands-on kind of guy. He was like, I can figure something out if you just give it to me and let me figure it out. That's what he would do. So yeah, and that's kind of how I learned too. If you give me a manual, my eyes start to glaze over. If you just give me the software, I'll figure out what it can do, and I may not get the most out of it. Sometimes I'll watch videos and go, oh my gosh, it does that? Oh, I wish I knew that 10 years ago. There's definitely some things like that in Logic that I've learned. I'm like, oh man, I wish I knew that. But Now, the thing was, when I created that harmonized, there's a certain pattern that happens, and this would be true because I'm harmonizing a major scale. It'll be true for all major scales, and we've talked about this before. The 1 chord is major, the 4 chord and the 5 chord are major, but the 2 chord, the 3 chord, and the 6 chord are all minor. And those are your main 6 chords. You don't usually play a diminished chord in a song. I do, but most people don't. And I did in ETA, right? That's a diminished 7th chord. Yeah, that's Jeff. The right words at the right time. Then the light bulbs of learning shine bright. Oh, interesting. Is that a saying? I've never heard that, but definitely. And a lot of times, if you write some of this stuff down, that's a good way for it to kind of soak in and start to make some sense. You could totally write the C scale this way and create the triads going this way and see them. Now, we could go to the trouble of going and learning what all the like I said, in the key of C major, the 1, the 4, and 5 are the major chords. All right, and we could go to D Dorian, which is the same as C scale but starting on D, and say, well, in D Dorian, the 7, the 3, and the 4 are the major chords. Well, it really makes very little sense to do that. I never use that kind of knowledge. Now, I might use it if we did some kind of altered Dorian scale, okay? Because then you're going to end up with some weird notes. So if I did a Dorian scale, what would be an altered Dorian scale? Let's see. I'm not feeling anything. But an altered C minor scale, harmonic minor, we could do A harmonic. Now you're talking some different chords. Okay, so in A harmonic minor, we would have, if I start on the A minor here, we would have the 1 chord is A minor. Okay, the 2 chord is going to be B diminished. All right. But the 3 chord is going to be C augmented. Isn't that crazy? So now something has changed. And then the 4 chord is going to be D minor. The 5 chord is going to be E major. Okay? The 6 chord is going to be F major. So you've got 2 major triads right next to each other. Totally different than you would ever have. And all I did was change 1 note in a minor scale. But it contains both the F major triad and the E major triad, which is really cool. And then it goes, so that was the F, and then the next chord would be G sharp diminished. So we had 2 diminished chords in there. So in a harmonic minor scale, you actually have 2 diminished triads in a harmonic. And what's a harmonic minor? So you just play a standard minor scale. So a standard A minor scale would be just A to A, all white keys. But the problem with A minor, or any minor key, is that the 5 chord, just as it occurs naturally, I don't know if you can hear that, it's just a minor chord. So that 5-1 is not very strong. It's mildly strong. But what if we made that a major chord? The 5 chord a major chord? That's got a lot more tension. Put a 7th in there, and now we're talking, okay? And just so you know, we were talking about triads, and we were going through the C scale, C, E, G, right? Well, if you go up another third, you get the 7th. And then you do this, you can harmonize the whole scale that way. And then you could add you could go further and add the ninth if you wanted to, and things like that. And that's how you create those ninth scales or ninth chords and 11th chords and 13th chord. It's just you start on the root of the chord and you just go every other letter in the scale that is related to that chord, and it'll create all the jazzy chords you want. Okay, so let's see, melodic minor. Yeah, a melodic minor is technically melodic minor you could, right. So melodic minor would be what we did to the minor chord by raising the seventh. If you do that to a Dorian scale, you would get a raised sixth and a raised seventh. You would have the sixth would be higher than a minor. So for example, D Dorian is this. And if I raise the seventh. But here's the interesting thing about melodic minor is when you study it in like classical guitar, when I do, everybody take a sip, I'm going to change guitars. When you do the Segovia scales, I'll do the A minor Segovia scale. When you do the Segovia scale, you do it melodic ascending, but just standard minor, natural minor descending. I used to practice these every day, all 24 scales. So I would do C major, A minor, G major, E minor, so on and so forth. So I would generally do them in the order of the fifths, just to kind of try to keep them mixed up. But yeah, so the harmonic minor, a lot of times the reason they do that way, the melodic minor ascending, is because when you're going up, you tend to be leading, and when you're coming down, it tends to be more minor. So I don't know. That's how you learn it. And I learned that in theory, in music theory, in high school, not with a guitar in my hand, but my guitar. When my guitar teacher said, "Oh, we're going to do Segovia scales," I said, "What are Segovia scales?" And then when he gave me the book, it was like, "Oh, we're doing the same as I learned in music theory class, which is ascending is different than descending." And I would do it like with a metronome, and I would do eighth notes, and I would do staccato. And then I would do triplets. And like I said, it's been a while. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Okay, I'll do it better here. And then 16th notes would be, like, depending on where the metronome is, of course. Got a lot of ass. They still get too much light in here. Isn't that crazy? The sun is really bright. Okay, so. Ooh, I got to work on my rusciatos. My rusciatos are very rusty. I have rusty rusciatos. I went to high school with a guy named Rusty Rusciato. Totally. That's a good one. I like that one. I like that name, Rusty Rusciato. It sounds like somebody, doesn't it? He sounds like a bandito. Look out. Watch out going through the pass. You might run into Rusty Rusciato. Okay, well, yeah, and you can practice. I usually practice to a drummer. Easy drummer. Easy drummer is better. I usually drop in beats or something like that to practice to. If I'm working on something, or when I'm writing especially. For classical, I generally do a metronome. If I'm working on my flamenco stuff, I find that's just better. And then the other thing I would do is do a dotted eighth to a 16th, so it would sound like this. Ah. And the reason, all of those, the reason for the staccato is to try to build up speed in your right hand. Because when you're doing a staccato like that, what you're doing is you're playing with your first finger and you're muting with your second. And that, what that does is that teaches you to prepare. You're preparing for that next pluck. Now, I'm not very fast, but that was one of the tricks I learned to try to get more speed out of a guitar. Now, not only would I do that, so I've got 24 scales, right, times 4 rhythms, but not only would I do those rhythms, I would also do different finger pairings. I'm going to do it with the C major scale just because I don't want to have to think this hard. But I would do IM, index middle. This is how I could spend literally 2 hours a day doing Scovia scales. You're like, how could you spend 2 hours a day playing scales? It's super duper easy. And then you would do MI, not IM, but you do a middle first, go. And it feels completely different, especially when you're trying to talk at the same time. On the major scales, you should end on the same fingers that you start with. Then you would do MI. And again, I'm doing eighth notes, 16th notes, triplets, and dotted eighths, all of those. You could see where it would just be like. All staccato. Then I would do AM. So now we had I, M, M, I, M, A, M. And then you would do IA. So the two, you would not use the middle finger. And surprisingly, that's actually not a bad one. A lot of players will do fast stuff with those two fingers because generally those two fingers are almost the same length on your hand, or they're closer. The index middle can be, those are pretty far. You generally will rotate your finger to kind of get them hitting the strings at the same. To make music? Well, it depends on the job. I'll answer that in a second. And then so IA and then AI, and then the hardest one is the IM AM, IM AM, IM AM. So you're going. I'm trying to. Yeah, the fast stuff, man, is just like those guys that shred. So I am. So hard. And I find I've been kind of, not lately, but I was kind of was trying to work on just little snippets of scale, trying to get increased tempo. Yeah, Aaron, sure. So, okay, now back, we can take another sip. It's one of our drinking game rules. If I change guitars, everybody takes a sip. We have drinking game rules. What are our numbers like? I haven't even looked. Oh, 34. We're holding pretty steady now. I still don't know why this is like this. No, that doesn't change anything. That's weird. Oh well, I don't want to mess it. I don't want to accidentally log out. What time is it? Like I said, I've got a session. I got to start working on it. They sent me the music and I've got to play on it. Pretty cool record. This is a record. I am actually playing on a record today. I do it. I generally on records, I'm the starting guy. I'm the guy that comes up with the first idea and everybody builds around what I do. But this is something that I'm adding to something that somebody else has already done. It's a known artist, but I can't mention who it is. So, So yeah, so like I said, there's no real need. I don't really find any use for this of coming up with learning all the harmonies of all the modes. Okay, so when I say the 1-4-5 is major, the 2-3-6 are minor, I'm talking about a major scale, an Ionian mode, and that's where it's most useful. If you start saying, oh yeah, let's do you're in D Dorian and you're going, you want C, F, G, and you say, hey, let's do a 7-3-4 progression. People would look at you funny, like, wait, a 7-3-4 progression? They'd be like, no, that wouldn't make any sense. So you don't generally do that. Okay, now the question I got. It is Kylie. Sorry, Time. You just totally hurt my feelings about what you said earlier. I've never worked with Kylie. I have not worked with Kylie. I don't know. Even, hey, Richard, what's going on? I don't know if she's even doing anything anymore. I couldn't even tell you one of her songs. She's kind of like a British thing. Like, she was really big in Britain. I don't know that and she Australian, actually. She was bigger in Britain than she was in the States. I know that. So, so the question I got, and then thank you, Bruce, for highlighting it. Leo, do you use Logic to transcribe, or which software do you use instead? Okay, so what you thought it froze, but oh, there you go. She started as a soap opera. Well, that's kind of like Rick Springfield here in America. He was on a soap opera and then he had hits. So do I need figure picks today? I don't know. So when somebody sends me music, when I'm working for composers, a lot of times, because they have to, sometimes they'll send you a chart, but when they send you a chart, usually that's done by somebody. I mean, you can have a computer kind of create a chart from MIDI, but it's not going to have all the direction you need on it, so you're still going to have to do some work on that. So sometimes I get charts from them, but if I don't, then I take their MIDI and a lot of times I'll say, don't worry about creating a chart, save that money, just send me the MIDI, I'll or save that time or whatever's gonna, however you came up with the chart. Send me the MIDI, I'll turn it in a chart. If I have any problems, I'll let you know. So I can take the MIDI, like for example, this crazy chord progression that we did. I did for the chromatic. Okay, so that's MIDI, where it goes to D Dorian, or C Dorian, and then it goes to C. Remember, it goes through all the modes. So I can take that, hit Command 3. And it looks like a chart. I can print this, or I can save as a PDF. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it very well, but so that it's just whole notes, 3, 4, okay. And so when I'm working in my studio, generally, let's see if I can get this so it's not so. See that? So that's what you're hearing. And I don't know where we are in the chart. Here. And then here. So yeah, so that's generally how I do music notation here. And then sometimes I'll read the piano scroll. If there's say there's a phrase, you know, I almost went back and got the acoustic guitar or classical guitar again, but say it's, you know, it's like a phrase where it's like an A minor. Something like that, right? Where it's very free and legato. Well, if I were to print up the chart, it would be this crazy, like, oh, where the heck? So what often I'll do, I will open up the piano roll and I can read that. You know, it's got the little dots where the notes are. I can read that. I can see where it is on the piano and go, oh, that's an A note. And if it's free, I can just watch the cursor go across the music and just try to kind of land it with that, and maybe 3 or 4 or 5 attempts and I've got it nailed. I actually started doing that with a composer a long time ago because he really wanted his pacing on his classical guitar stuff like to be perfect, like exactly. So the music was worthless because it was just written so weird, and the, you know, it's not like he puts a retard in there. He actually plays it and turns off the click. So if you put a retard in there, then, but even then, that's everybody does a retard differently, and the speed of the retard will, you know. So that it could be easier to read if it's written with a retard, but if it's just written with the click off and he's just playing it, it looks like crazy music. So if that's the scenario, then I will probably read the MIDI roll for something like that. Now, that said, the music software that I use to create all the documents for our live stream is Finale. And 99.9% of the time I'm using Finale. I think a couple times I've created some documents using Logic, but for the most part I'm using Finale. And it's a big learning curve on that one. If you were to learn how to do notation software today, I would say you learn on Sibelius. There are free ones out there that are pretty good. But if you're going to do some more complex stuff, then I would say, you know, pick up Sibelius, and I think you could learn a lot there. So, all right. Now, what did I do? Put in my pocket. Okay. So yeah. So we talked. We talked about, again, just to kind of reiterate what we've talked about in the past. We talked about the relative scales, which are all the scales in the key of C. C, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, and so on and so forth. So, and then what we did was we analyzed those scales and go, well, what's the order of whole steps and half steps? And you'll notice that they're all different. And you'll also notice that there's kind of that diagonal H going across all the diagram there. I wanted you to see that. It's not necessarily for cheating purposes, but it's just for you to see that there's kind of a DNA thread in there, but they have the same DNA, but they sound different. And then what we did was we used the formulas to create the parallel modes, which is that third box down there, and that's the C. We did C Ionian or C major, C Dorian, C Phrygian, C Lydian, C Mixolydian, C Aeolian, and then lastly C Locrian, which basically was just a C major scale with everything flatted but the C and the F. It sounds like a D flat scale that you're starting on C. So basically, oh, Ralph. Oh, sorry. Did I? Where was it? Yeah, I know Tim. No, well, I mean, he's got his own channel. He's definitely played on some records. I would say Michael Thompson, who you probably don't know who he is, has played on a lot more records than Tim Pierce, or at least a lot bigger records. Tim's on some big records, but Michael, holy cow, he played on a lot of big records, or still does. Michael Thompson. I mean, let me see if I can see if he has an IMDb. I mean, not an IMDb, a wiki. Um, yeah, songwriter, I guess. Yeah, from Port Washington, New York originally, but he lives out here. Boom, 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 boom. Sideman. Now these are records. So yeah, he did Cher and Barbra Streisand and Natalie Cole, Stephen Bishop, Paul Anka. Worked on The Simpsons, Brenda Russell, Reba McEntire, Neil Diamond, Michael Bolton, Celine Dion. And that's when he started really getting into it, was when, because David Foster, the producer David Foster, he's like his first call. So once Lukather stopped doing sessions, David was kind of looking for the next guy, and that became Michael Thompson. Michael Bolton. Michael's got his own channel too. Christopher Cross, Anita Baker, Peebo Bryson, Madonna, Dusty Springfield, Bob Seger, Celine Dion again, Tony Braxton. Pretty much anything that Mariah Carey, I mean, major records. Some of these were major records. Sarah Brightman, Sheena Easton, Richard Marx. He did a lot of stuff with Richard Marx. Olivia Newton-John. I mean, the list goes on. Christina Aguilera, and that's like the old stuff. And then you get further up, and he's Michael McDonald and Al Jarreau, George Benson, Peter Cetera, Josh Groban, Leon Rimes, Seal. I think he's on the Seal record. Al Jarreau, Richard Marx, Michael Bublé, Michael Bolton, Glenn Frey. I mean, it kind of stops at Michael Bublé. I mean, I think he's still doing stuff, but he played on TV shows like Fame, Miami Vice, Days of Thunder. He can read, so a lot of movies and stuff. So anyway, Space Jam. He was in Space Jam. That's fun. So yeah, that guy. But Tim's great too. Tim's a real tone guy like Michael. And get rid of that. There, it gets better. So you can look him up. His channel. Let me see if I can find his YouTube channel. I know I follow him. If he's done anything lately. You can even say, hey, Tom Strahle sent me here. And I don't know if he was thinking, yeah, he's only got 2,600 subscribers. I don't know if he was thinking he's like going to have this big YouTube channel. You could see him in his studio working. Well, here, let's do this. Yep. Copy. Oh, oh, it is. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Mount Washington. No, Mount Washington is New York. He's from Mount Washington, New York, it said. Is that what it was? Mount Washington? I can't remember now. But yeah, good player, great tone. Let's see. How many videos does he have? Yeah, he's got a few videos. He's put some stuff up. Even 10 months ago is the most recent thing. He's got a band. He does play out a little bit. Yeah. I think he did a video with Ramon. Yeah, there's Ramon, who passed away, died of COVID a couple of years ago. Ramon Stignato. So yeah, I don't know what Michael's up to. He may be retired. His I could look up his Facebook. We're Facebook friends. I'm just not on Facebook very often. And if if you don't see someone on Facebook, then, they don't show up in your feed very often. So even though they're posting, now that I'm going to them, we got 62 mutual friends. But Michael, no, where are we? Wait. Oh, that's weird. I thought we were friends. That's weird. Okay. Maybe he went through and, no, he's, fine. Okay, so this is, yeah, I mean, he probably is still doing he's still doing stuff. Session man, this is older, but, yeah, when he was dyeing his hair. I liked when he stopped dyeing his hair. He looks really cool. Oh, Bobby Watson. Oh my gosh, I know I've worked with Bobby a lot. So here he is playing. Yeah, he's a great player, and he's a super nice guy. We've been friends for a very long time. I thought we were Facebook friends, but I guess we weren't, or maybe we were. I don't know. Maybe he stopped following. You know, he unfriended me because I don't know. We didn't have a lot of contact, but I'll hit him up. I got to see Tad Devlin as a Skype contact. He directed me to George at the Jungle. He wanted me to do some 3D work. Oh, he directed. Oh, cool. Are you starting to get some IMDb credits? That 3D work stuff is you only have 7 videos, but they all are good. I have too many videos, and then most of them are just me talking. I've got it. Like I've said, I did post a new video few weeks ago. I have another one that is filmed, but I have to do a voiceover for it. So, and which means I have to go and watch the whole thing again and go, oh right, okay, I need to do. You know, so I think I still need to do the editing. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. I'll let that be a surprise for now. You'll still get first look at it if you're a member of the Discord, because I usually post it there the day before. Now, a lot of times I'll post it on Discord and then it'll disappear. And the reason that happens is because when I do a new video and you've got several options on the video. You can keep it private. You can have it public with a link. You can have it set public. There's, I think, another fourth option. So basically what happens is if I set it up as private but viewable with a link, that's what I post on Discord. So if you click on that link, you can get it. You wouldn't naturally if you search for me, you wouldn't find that video. But if you enter the URL, or happen to enter the same URL, which is virtually impossible, then you would stumble on it without having the link necessarily. Then what happens is when I go ahead and program it to be released, that link is no longer any good, I think, because what happens is they change the status from private to public, and then it's a whole new URL at that point. So that's why those disappear, I'm pretty sure, right? Oh, interesting. That's clever, Time Prophet, when you do voiceover. So they can see it faster and start editing. In the Navy's a pretty good bad pop song, isn't it? In the Navy. YMCA, though, that's a fun song. Although, at the time, we didn't know they were gay. So it was a fun song when you didn't know what was going on at the YMCA. It's just funny. Said he's taken off. It's Raining Men. Yeah, that's a pretty bad song. Macho Man. Yeah, a lot of the disco era stuff, pretty bad. And Muskrat Love is 74, I think. Is that right? There was a lot of bad songs in that era. People have already been naming them. I'm like, man, yeah, there were some bad songs in junior high. There was also, what was the one that was like the news story about the shark? What was that? All the radio stations played it. It was probably from a comedy album. 70s shark song. I don't know if it was a song. Was it a song or comedy? What was it? Mr. Jaws. That was it, probably. Yeah. Oh yeah, all-time novelty hits. That's it. Mr. Jaws. I think that's it. see, the problem is if I play this, it's going to be a lot of songs. And what they did was, so I'll post it so you can see it. Basically, what they did was Jaws was a huge hit, and this Dickie Goodman did a record, not very popular. Well, it was at the time, I guess, but he did bass lines on disco, phenomenal. Really good bass lines. Yeah, they're very fun to play and very fun to learn. Boogie Oogie Oogie. So many. I did a lot of those songs because I had disco band in high school. So what they did was they're interviewing Jaws, right? And every time they ask him a question, it's a setup to a hook from a song that that was a hit at the time. Really stupid, but oh my gosh, it was like so it was kind of a way of, I guess, selling records by using other people's records. And I guess maybe the thing was you didn't have enough of the song to have to pay a copyright for or to get permission to use, because it was done for parody, but you're actually using the recording. So I'm not sure how they got around that. So it's called Mr. Jaws. Let me see if there's a Wikipedia for it, because that might say if it was licensed or not. Oops. I don't know. We'll see. Mr. Jaws, Wikipedia. Look at that. Somebody did a Wikipedia page for it. Summer blockbuster film Jaws, yeah. And so the songs included, the singles peaked number 4. It did Dynamite, Please, Please, Mr. Please, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, Why Can't We Be Friends, Get Down Tonight, The Hustle, Love Will Keep Us Together, Rhinestone Cowboy, One of These Nights, Jive Talking, I'm Not in Love, Midnight Blue. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, awful. Just awful. It sold 1 million copies, though. Isn't that crazy? Dickie Goodman. Now, did they answer the question? The name of the song was Cash Records was another idea of them. The recording took place. Seriously. Oh, they were replaced later on later pressings by sound-alike recordings. Yeah, when it became a hit. So they weren't necessarily intending it to become a hit. That's interesting. So yeah, that makes sense. So maybe this version is the replacement hit. So they may not quite sound like them, which actually that would be pretty expensive to do, to try to find. Sorry, I get too bright there. Find something, but yeah. Okay, I should get going. I got to start tracking. I got to start carving on this record. And I will talk to you later when if the record comes out, or when it comes out. I'll let you know obviously I'll let you know about it if I'm on it still. Sometimes you do things, they want you to do stuff, and they're like, yeah, we changed our mind, we're going a different direction, or yeah, none of that stuff really worked for me, so I'm not going to use it. That happens. So music was really good in the 70s. Yeah, this is the Mr. Jaws is an example of how it wasn't all good. Anyway, okay, everybody, take care, everybody. Appreciate you all. I'm going to end the stream now, and I'll try to leave this window up so you can keep chatting for a minute. Okay, bye-bye.